Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Three Things About the Browns. I'm Stephanie Haney. I'm here with our Three News Sports analyst, Ben Axelrod. Ben, thank you for being here today on what is very much not a Victory Tuesday.
Yes, thank you for having me. You're right. Certainly a lot to get through from last night's game, and we'll get through it all. But yeah, not a victory Tuesday indeed.
No, it is not. And I just want to let people know, of course, this looks a little different than you're used to seeing for Three Things About the Browns because the Browns are not the only people being impacted by this COVID surge. I did test positive for COVID-19. Very thankful, though, to have a vaccination, a booster shot, have a mild case. So feeling on the upswing here. But Ben, let's get right to it. Let's talk about this game. Let's talk about some of the obstacles that the Browns had in front of them facing this game against the Raiders that they ended up losing 16-14.
Yeah, just a hectic week for the Browns last week. More than 20 players placed on the COVID-19 list. A lot of key players, a lot of starters. Obviously, the top two quarterbacks on the team, Baker Mayfield and Case Keenum. Jedrick Wills, the starting left tackle, Jadeveon Clowney, the starting defensive end opposite Myles Garrett. Just, a handful of key players. They pushed the game back from Saturday to Monday. And in that span, the Browns did get a couple of players back. They get back Wyatt Teller. They get back John Johnson III, but they also lose Jadeveon Clowney and James Hudson. So really, kind of splitting hairs with the delay. You don't get either of the top two quarterbacks back. So you're starting your third string quarterback, Nick Mullins, who has been on the practice squad all season. So definitely an uphill battle for the Browns. And, I think when you look at the way the game played out, they certainly fought admirably. They played in terms of how their paths to winning that game, that was just about as perfect of a script as they could have asked for there with the lead late in the fourth quarter, but ultimately not able to hold on, and the Raiders win on a last-second field goal.
I was getting really excited in that fourth quarter there, too. Of course, I think everybody probably was right up until the last few seconds win again. We did see them make that field goal, make it twice because of the timeout. I was thinking to myself, call timeout a couple more times. Let's make them do it 4 more times.
Yeah, I think they actually, because teams used to do that, I think they put in a rule that you can only call a timeout once instead of consecutive timeouts because, you started to get into some games there where coaches were just emptying the clip, so to speak, calling their timeouts at the end of games.
All right. Well, that makes sense, of course. Thank you for that insight on that, Ben. Absolutely. All right. Look, lots of questions about how the play ended up unfolding. Of course, also head coach Kevin Stefanski, the usual play caller, he was sitting at home in his basement on his couch watching. We had Mike Prefer playing the calls. A lot of people talking about that decision to go for it on third down with 3 yards to go with Nick Chubb. Walk me through that.
Yeah, so really, the Browns found themselves in a scenario after Greedy Williams intercepted Raiders quarterback Derek Carr, where they were ahead of the 2-minute warning, but they were in a position where they could start to run down the clock and really, if they get a first down in that situation, win the game. The Raiders would have been out of timeouts at that point. The Browns would have been able to really just take a couple of knees and wind down the clock to, probably less than 10 seconds. So the Browns are facing a 3rd and 3 with, I believe it was 31 seconds left. So in that scenario, you can either run the ball and hope you get it. And if you get it, you probably win the game. And if you don't get it, at least the clock winds down to the 2-minute warning. Or you can pass the ball, which percentage-wise is probably the higher percentage play, where, again, if you get the first down, you win the game. But if you throw an incomplete pass, the clock stops. You're giving the Raiders back the ball, with the 2-minute warning then in their favor. The Browns ultimately on 3rd and 3 opted to hand the ball to Nick Chubb to the right. He gets stuffed for a no gain. So it's 4th and 3. They wind up punting the ball back, and the Raiders go on their game-winning field goal drive. A lot of questions as to whether or not that was the right call, and I think that was a situation where you really saw the Browns be impacted by COVID, because I think that if it was Baker Mayfield in the game, it would have been an easy decision. You boot the ball out, you get Baker on the move. He has the option to either to run it or to pass it. And, that's really kind of the same play. If you remember last year in week 17, when they clinched the playoffs over the Steelers, when they beat the Steelers to go to the playoffs, that was the exact same situation, facing a third and short, and Baker Mayfield took the ball, ran the ball, and the Browns wind up winning the game. This situation, though, they hand the ball to Nick Chubb, which I think everybody in the stadium expected them to do, and a lot of second guessing over whether or not that was the right call. I cannot fault the Browns offensive coordinator, Alex Van Pelt. He was the one calling the plays. I can't fault him too much because I think a 3rd and 3, you're putting the ball in the hands of your best player, Nick Chubb, as opposed to your practice squad quarterback, Nick Mullins. But definitely when you look back on that game and, really it was a chance for the Browns to seal the game, and ultimately they just didn't get the job done.
We did not, unfortunately. It was a sad, really crushing moment. Listen, as a fan, I have to say, I want the ball in Nick Chubb's hands. I don't know that I would have done it every differently, but man, this was a tough loss. It was a really, really tough loss to watch in those final seconds when he put it through those uprights for that second time, taking home that win. One question I want to ask, if you have any insight on this: how do we think Chase McLaughlin fares on this? Is he going to be kicking for us on Saturday against Green Bay?
I mean, I don't know how COVID's going to impact this, because this might be a difficult time to get guys in for tryouts and whatnot. But yeah, I would say in terms of job security, Chase McLaughlin, it's not looking too good right now. I think if the Browns had a better option right now, they would certainly be going toward that. And we'll see. They have a lot to work through between now and Saturday against Green Bay. And the kicker position is certainly chief among them.
Mm-hmm. Well, we definitely got our money out of Colquitt. I'll say that, because they were punting that ball all over the field in that game last night. And now we are looking towards. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's a guy, Dustin Colquitt, who they brought in because Jamie Gillen went on the COVID list before the Ravens game, actually. Dustin Colquitt might be around for a few more weeks. He's had a good tryout here for the Browns. I think Jamie Gillen was already on shaky ground this season. The Browns had already brought in other punters for tryouts and ultimately just stuck with Gillen. You would hate to see a guy, essentially lose his job because he went on the COVID list, but it's a tough business in football, and I think Dustin Colquitt has certainly given the Browns something to think about along those lines.
Yeah, well, we like to see that. We like to see them having things to think about. We want to see good, positive options there. Now, let's talk about the playoff picture before I let you go here, Ben. What's it look like now after this loss, which was really decisive for our rankings in the AFC North?
Yeah, it really was a big hit for the Browns. If they would have won that game, they would have been in first place of the AFC North. Now they're in last place. In terms of the wild card picture, heading into the week, they were in fourth place, which 3 teams make it. So they were in fourth there. Now they slide back to eighth. So they're facing an uphill battle right now. If the Browns are going to have a chance to make the playoffs, it's most likely going to have to come through winning the division, which, even though they're in last place, they're only a game and a half back of the Cincinnati Bengals right now. So, the Browns are in a position now where they hold most of the tiebreakers in the AFC North. They still have games remaining against the Steelers and the Bengals. Now, before it looked like you could probably afford to lose this game against Green Bay. Now you probably do need to win this game against Green Bay. But most importantly, you need to win those 2 remaining games against the Steelers and the Bengals. Advanced 538 and Advanced Analytics site, they do a great job with this stuff. They currently give the Browns a 15% chance to make the playoffs, and of those chances, 12% is winning the division. So certainly facing an uphill battle here, but still, with 3 weeks left in the season, still a path to the playoffs.
Well, I've said it before. I was hoping I wouldn't say it again at this point, but I will say it again. So you're saying there's a chance.
Still a chance, a slim one, but still a chance.
All right. I like to hear it. Ben, thank you so much for your insight today. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
That's it for 3 Things About the Browns today. We will talk more about what's going on with the Browns and the rest of the season after they take on the Green Bay Packers on the road on Christmas this weekend.